So if you've been following me up to now, you will know that my early influences were Bruce Lee, Hulk Hogan, Triple H, these kind of guys. And then slowly moved on to Kevin Levrone and stuff like that, moved into Flex magazine. And when I bought my first Flex magazine, one of the reasons I bought the first Flex magazine wasn't because of bodybuilders, it was Triple H. Triple H was on the front cover. He was doing a bicep curl. I was like, I'm going to buy that. I bought it, I opened it, and I looked at this guy called Kevin Levrone. I was like, what the hell is this? This is absolutely insane. I'll buy it. And little did I know it was like buying a GAY P-Mag back in the days, if you know what I mean. It was weird. Remember, W.H. Smith was a shot back in those days. We used to finish school, we used to head into town, and we used to be reading the magazines, the car mags. We were looking through the car mags, and while my mates were in the car section, I used to hover off to the men's health section. And above the men's health section, there used to be, well, at this on this shelf, there was men's health and wrestling magazines. Above that, there was Flex magazine. There was two magazines available at that time. One was Flex magazine, and one was Muscular Development, which was like the bit of the hardcore bodybuilding mag. Flex was like the middle one, and then Muscle and Fitness was like the easy one. That was like the step up from Men's Health. So it was Men's Health, Muscle and Fitness, Flex magazine, and then Muscular Development. That was in order of bodybuilding to bikini athlete or physique. You know what I'm trying to say. And then above that shelf was the, you know what I'm talking about. So it was a bit strange because you used to stand there, and this is the time when we used to go to W.H. Smith. And how weird is this? This does not happen anymore. There used to be a bunch of lads, not lads when I say lads, guys, middle-aged guys, people who've just finished work, office workers, whatever, just lined up at the magazine section, grabbing the mag and just reading. Such a bizarre sight today. Imagine seeing that today. And I was only a kid at the time, but imagine you go to W.H. Smith now. Is it still open? Yeah, it's still open. Do they even sell magazines? Are magazines even a thing? I don't even know. But imagine you going into W.H. Smith now and there's just a row of 20, 30 people just reading through magazines. Such a weird thing. Because you'd think that you just went in, grabbed the magazine and went and bought it. No, I couldn't afford the magazines. I used to stand there reading it. Anyway, I've gone off track there. So that was my early influences into bodybuilding. And today I'm going to talk about a bodybuilder who I discovered in Flex magazine. Obviously, when you're watching Flex magazine, then you come across Arnold Schwarzenegger. We all know Arnold Schwarzenegger from Predator, Terminator. Where as a kid, they were the movies I watched growing up, and I thought Commando as well. Such a terrible movie. Such a terrible movie. But we loved it because it was Arnold Schwarzenegger. So, Flex magazine, Triple H, opened it, looked inside, bodybuilders. Then I stumbled across someone called Frank Zane. Now, Frank Zane for me was, I didn't know, obviously, when you're that age, these are all new. This is all new to you at that age. And these guys were well before my time. So this was the golden era of bodybuilding, as they called it back then. I think it's still called that now. And I look at these physiques, and I'm thinking, wow, if I was to look like something, this is what I look like. Frank Zane. Because the guy was he looked like he was, carved out of marble. That's how much of an amazing physique he had. And then you start doing some research on the guy, and then you start looking at diets. And as I started getting a little bit older and moving away from bodybuilding, those physiques, well, they initially appealed to me more anyway, because aesthetically they were way more pleasing. So for me, looking at Ronnie Coleman, I appreciate what Ronnie Coleman was doing. I appreciate what Kevin Levrone was doing. Jay Cutler, Flex Wheeler, all these guys back in the days. But I wanted to look like the classic guys. That was the reality of it. Not Arnold Schwarzenegger. Schwarzenegger was a big dude, but Frank Zane definitely. And Mensa had a good physique on him. He had like a solid build, looked like a powerlifter, but wasn't fat. So Frank Zane, we're talking about today. So today what we're going to do is a bit of a different one today. I'm going to talk about Frank Zane. A couple of things about Frank Zane, but mainly his diet. So first of all, let's get the diet out of the way. Now, for those who don't know, Frank Zane weighed 200 pounds. And what was his height here? I forgot his height. It was just, yeah, there he is. So he's 5'9". 5'9", and he was 88.5 kilo. That's what it says here, 90 kilo. You get what I'm trying to say. And he was born in 1942. So the guy's probably knocking on 80 now. I'm sure he's still alive and he's still in good shape. I'm going to get to that in a little bit. So Frank Zane's diet. Now, when he competed, I don't exactly know how accurate this diet is. It is wrote by him. It's an article online that I've just found on Google. There's a few, so I've had to kind of sift through a few. But you can find this kind of stuff. So as an example, remember when I said how much protein you should have in an older video? I wasn't wrong, and he does very similar thing. Frank Zane was having 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So 200 grams, guy, 90 kilo guy, was eating 200 grams of protein, which in my eyes is about right. Carbohydrates, he was only having 100 grams of carbs. So he was having half a gram of carbs compared to protein. Now, that is a big thing in this day and age. And the rest of the calories, it says here, were made up of fats. I'm guessing, just off the calories, the 3,000 calories he had, roughly his fats were pretty high. They were over 200 grams. Which just goes to show he diets very similar to me. Or should I say, I diet very similar to Frank Zane. Now, I don't follow Frank Zane's diet. I don't follow it. I have seen this in the past, but it's one of those things. I'm a guy who has seen thousands of diets every single year. So God knows how many diets I've seen or how many diets I've come across. Remember, guys, I get diets sent to me every single day. So I see so many diets. But there's certain diets that stand out when I think, that's something that I do. That's very similar to what I do. And this, when I look at this now, and I've seen this in the past as well, I think that's very similar to how I do it. And the reason why I do my diet the way I do it is because I kind of figured it out. I had the whole high carbohydrates. Everyone was going on about carbohydrates. We need to eat carbs. You need energy. You need to stay full. You need to stay big. Glycogen. All this stuff. Bullshit. So I was more of a fat guy. When I started going high on the fats, what happened? My physique changed. I get full, I get big. Someone laughed at me actually, or was joking, saying, how do you load up on fats and carb up, or how do you fat up and load on fats before the show? No, bro, I did it. A lot of my clients can do it as well. If you don't know how to do it, then you need to do more research. It's possible. You don't need to always carb up. You can load up on fats before the show. Then you don't spill over. But that's another story. That's another video. Meal 1, Frank Zane. 3 soft boiled eggs, 8 ounces of calf liver, and a baked yam. So calf liver, obviously very, very high in protein, high in everything else. I'm sure he changed that for steak as well. I read that in another article. So these are very mumble-jumbled articles. Meal 2, 8 ounces of steak, cottage cheese and vegetables. Meal 3, 6 egg omelette with cheese and potatoes. Meal 4, 8 ounces of ground beef and a large salad. So you see very high fat, very moderate kind of ish protein, but very low carbohydrates. That is the way to live. And if you look at Frank Zane now, just Google him. I was gonna do the whole editing and put things on the screen. I am looking for a guy, just as a side note. I'm looking to hire somebody. If there's anybody out there who thinks they can hire, as I speak, little bits like this, or when I say Frank Zane, 200 pounds, put a picture of Frank Zane up. I can't got the time to edit, guys. You know what I'm trying to say. Anybody wants a job, just comment down below, inbox me on Facebook or Instagram. I'll always reply there. Back to this diet. So this was his diet. And also, guys, while you're watching this, please subscribe. We're trying to grow. Please subscribe and comment down below. Right. So Frank Zane's diet, very high in fat, moderate protein, low carbohydrates. That's just the way to be if you want to live a long life. That's the way I see it. The guy looked amazing. I have all those bodybuilders now, even Arnold Schwarzenegger included. He's still in very good shape. And then another thing as well that I just want to mention. This is a very good saying by Frank Zane, which kind of was here, if I can find it for you guys. And yeah, here it is. Okay. So this is when Frank Zane was 80 years old in 2019. So wow. So he's 84 right now. Amazing. 83, 84. It's something like that. I don't know if you can see this picture. I don't know how good that's going to be able to, you're going to be able to see that, but amazing shape still. 80 years old, unbelievable. Here's what he said. I get hungry, I still don't eat. Unbelievable. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? I get hungry, I still don't eat. What I've been preaching for a very, very long time. Stay hungry. And I'll tell you something, he's probably said that, but like me, he probably doesn't get that hungry anyway. Because the more you stay hungry, the less hungry you feel. I can go days without food. I will go literally a whole day without food and be like, oh, is it time to eat? Oh, I didn't know I needed to eat. And I will just eat because I don't want to lose too much muscle mass. You know what I'm trying to say? That is the only reason I'll eat. But for hunger reasons, for gluttonous desire reasons, to satisfy my craving reasons, never crosses my mind. ever. It does not happen. And then if I'm on holiday somewhere, I'm out and about and I see something I really want to eat and I think, you know what? I'm never going to walk past this street ever again in my life. I will go and eat that. Do you know why? Because 99% of the time, I ain't having those cravings. Why? Because I program myself for that. And if you want to do programs and you want to learn how to program yourself, link is in the description. So I thought that was a very interesting quote there from Frank Zane. Now, I'm just going to go over, and then, again, he's very, very lean. He trains every day. He does a lot of yoga. His training was a bit different to the way I train. Let me just go over his training a little bit so you guys get an understanding on what Frank Zane was doing. So there's a couple of things to note over here, actually. So he was 3 times Mr. Olympia and one of 14 men. Okay, that's how many. Well, there's a little bit more now since this article was written. I think, did he beat Arnold Schwarzenegger? I don't know who he defeated at Mr. Olympia. Yeah, he did beat Arnold Schwarzenegger. So he's one of the guys who beat Arnold Schwarzenegger. And that was really hard with all the politics. Now, a couple of things to note. Skip the flat bench. Very funny that he says that, because same thing with me. And this is, I've not read this article in a long time. And funnily enough, I've only just started doing the flat bench again. But he says he skips the flat bench. Flange bench is good for building pec, delt, and tricep mass, but its usefulness doesn't last. And I agree, because it can really wear down your joints. But for powerlifting, I think it's great. He liked a lot of dumbbells, bench press, incline bench press, and dumbbells. A neutral grip allows for better stretch for the flies. And obviously, this is a time where machines weren't as crazy as they are now. Nowadays, you go into a gym and it's 95% machines and there's just a small little dumbbell rack in the corner, or they've got a long dumbbell rack, and majority of it, I would say 70 to 80% of floor space is for machines. So not my style of gym. I don't like it. I prefer more free weight kind of stuff and racks, and that's what these guys were doing. His rep range was a little bit higher than mine because I'm a powerlifter, or I like to train like a powerlifter. His was 15, 12, 10 and increased weights, typical pyramid sets. Incline dumbbell press, very basic. Chase the pump, follow the pump. I remind myself to do this, train whenever I train my triceps also. Yeah, so just basic stuff there. Annihilate abs. Okay, here's an interesting one from Frank Zane. The guy used to perform 1,000 reps of various moves for a total of 30 minutes a day. Yes, 30 minutes a day. As an example, I did it in the now hard to find Roman chair, so we know what a Roman chair is. Performing 50 reps each, then I would do hanging knee raises and seated twists. So hanging knee raises, we know what they are. And he stretched out in between each set as well. And seated twist, he was doing that. Crazy amount of reps if you think about it. I mean, it's not a lot. If you do 50 rep sets, which is quite commonly, quite easily done if you're training abs. Are you guys doing 50 rep sets when you're training abs? I don't think you guys are. I don't think nobody nowadays. I have not been to a gym recently and seen someone do 50 rep sets on abs. I do it. I don't see you guys doing 50 rep sets on abs. That's going to be another video. I'm going to do a whole ab video soon as well. But 50 rep sets, 20 sets in half an hour. That doesn't leave much time for rest in between these sets. If you're going full pelt, I mean, you just think about it. That's quite a hard workout. If it takes you a minute to do 50 reps, which is pretty hard, but let's say it does, you know, that's 20 minutes there. How much are you resting? Half a minute in between each set? Think about it, guys. That's why he had such good abs. And that's why even till this day, he's got good abs. And obviously the Roman chair, that's what he used to do, which is kind of a hard exercise, and seated twists as well. And sometimes he used the heavy dumbbell. So, yeah, okay, perfect. So, and then this is another thing as well. It's very similar. You know, it's funny because, like, you know, like in life, things like you see something, you might read something. I'll give you an example. A couple of books that I read. I might read a book and think nothing of it. Absolutely nothing of that chapter. Forget it, left it. Read a book, read the chapter, done. Something might happen in my life, and then a year later, I'll go back to read that book again because I study books. I don't read books. I literally have 10 books and I will study those books. I don't go over different books and say, oh, this was interesting, that was interesting. No, I study them. So when I go back over that book again, I have an aha moment. Oops. I have an aha moment thinking, I missed this the first time round. It didn't have any relevance to me. But now it has, because this just happened recently. So crazy, it's strange how it is. And that's the kind of moment I'm having right now, because I haven't read this pre-making this video. I thought I want to make a video on Frank Zane. Someone gave me an idea and someone said, listen, make a video on Frank Zane. I want to know what he did, and can you share his kind of things or what he was doing? I think it'd be good to hear your perspective on it. And funnily enough, as I'm going down this article, more and more aha moments, thinking, wow, I have now discovered this. I've read this before, but I've now discovered this long way around. When somebody was telling me this, or when I was reading it, I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't there at that point in my life. And maybe you're not there at your point in your life to be taking this on board. Maybe you're a bodybuilder, you want to compete. You don't want to be doing 1,000 rep workouts for abs. You want to be doing heavy compounds. You want to be utilizing your time best spent on doing some cardio, cooking your meals, doing something else. But if you're a longevity guy like me, you know what? I'm going to get into the 1,000 rep workouts. That's something I should start incorporating back in again. So I'm learning as well whilst teaching you guys. So I very much agree with that. Now, this is another thing that the guys mentioned. Don't program hop. I have not changed my program, exercise selection, exercise order in over 20 years. I just don't do it. I figured out early on what would work, what wouldn't work, stuck to the basics, looked at my physique and thought, great, I've got the physique I want at 16. Got the physique I want at 18. Everything just clicked. Why change? Never wanted to be anything different. I don't want a bigger chest. I don't want bigger arms. I don't want a bigger back. Everything is in sync. And I don't program help. And that's another thing I think people should, people should not program help. And that's one of the reasons why. So it mentions here, Zane trained his legs only once per week, but when he did, he attacked them with ferocity. The intense training style applied to all body parts helped him achieve perfect balance. They weren't known to have big legs back in the days, and I like that. Yeah, I said it. I don't want big legs. Why do you want to walk around with big legs, chafing around the place with this new modern bodybuilding, and people are just like their little waddle. They don't walk, they waddle around like this. You know what I'm talking about, guys. That is not healthy. Do you want to waddle around when you're 80 years old? Do you think Frank Zane at 84 years old right now wants to waddle around? You see Arnold Schwarzenegger waddling around. The guys had nice, good, muscular legs. Not the crazy amount of mass that you see nowadays, building their glutes up, shredded glutes. Disgusting. Don't like it. Don't want to see it, bro. That was one of the reasons why I never got the shredded glutes. I had shredded abs. I was the most conditioned guy on stage every time I competed. But guess what? I didn't have shredded glutes. It's disgusting. I don't want shredded. Why do I want to have shredded glutes for? And this is the thing. Legs once a week. I mean, I do them every 4 days, but these guys did it once a week. There wasn't big emphasis on leg those days, and I preferred that. Nowadays, I can appreciate it. I can look at Jay Cutler and Ronnie come and say, wow, amazing, great. You guys, your legs look good. Do I want that? Do I heck? It's disgusting. I don't want to see it. So that's why he was training legs less. And guess what? I'm the same. I like it. I don't care if you ain't got big legs. It doesn't matter. Don't get me wrong, guys. You don't want skinny legs. Skinny legs, it's not that it's an attractive thing as they're like, oh, I want to be attracted to your legs. No. I say it's like not attractive in the sense where it just doesn't flow with your physique. It doesn't look good. You know, I don't care what you look like personally. You can look like whoever the hell you want. That's the reality. I don't care. I'm only trying to help you guys. If you've got massive legs, huge legs, and you're doing longevity, downsize it a little bit. Don't go crazy. You don't want to be waddling around the place. Not attractive. Focus up. Obviously, when he was training, he was very focused, and that's how everything was in the late 60s and 70s. If you went to the gym at 6:30 or 7 in the morning, the people there were serious about their workouts. There was no talking, no noise, and no distractions. By 9 a.m., all the loudmouths wandered in. Fortunately, I was on my way out. So the guy got up early, did his training. I'm not going to get into how much cardio he did. I think he did quite a lot of cardio. These guys were smashing the hell out of cardio, but they were doing, the training was so intense. They were training like, 2.5 hours training there? Yeah, 2.5 hours training. Every single day, 7 days a week, these guys were at it in the golden era. They looked amazing. They're still very healthy to this day. And I've just learned something there, that 1,000 rep set on abs. I'm going to try and give that a go. I'm going to try and find out exactly what the guy did in what order. And I'm going to do a video on it. And I'm going to try and put myself to the test and see if I've got the stamina in my abs in order to do that. So hopefully, guys, you enjoyed that video on my take on Frank Zane, my opinion on Frank Zane, and my closing segment on Frank Zane would be, follow this guy. He's 80-odd year old right now. Look at what he did. Oh yeah, another thing as well, sorry. PEDs. It said here. If I can find it quickly, it was Primo, Test, and D-bol. That's what they used to take. It doesn't say the amounts. I'm assuming, looking at Frank Zane, it was very minimal. It wasn't a lot. They used to take D-bol pre-workout. I know about that. They used to take a little test base, whatever that was, and Primo. That was a big thing. They didn't have trend. They didn't do none of that. Can Frank Zane's physique be achieved naturally? Someone's going to ask. No, I don't think you can get that naturally, personally, unless you're Mike O'Hearn. But we all know what he's doing. So, yeah, I mean, great guy. Amazing to think that he's 84 years old now, still in good shape, still live and kicking. And he did that because of what he did here. All this work now is making him live and kicking at that age. Because I know guys who were bodybuilding 5 or 6 years ago who are only 40-year-old and they are haggard. They are messed up right now. So this excessive steroid abuse is shaving years off your life. Not days, not months, years off your life. Whether you want to admit it or not, it's happening. A lot of deaths in modern bodybuilding. A lot of guys, packing it in because they get a blood test and they think, you know what, it's time to call it quits, because if I don't, something's going to tell me to call it quits. And that's just the way it is with modern bodybuilding. But I'm not going to get into it too much. Like I said, guys, hopefully you like this style of videos. Comment down below, subscribe, and like.